Have you ever wondered what the best Minecraft client for Skyblock is? Well, I've got you covered. In this video, I'm going to be going through 4 really common Skyblock clients and launchers that you might be using and test them out and see which one is the best for you. So how the comparison is going to work is that I'm going to log on to each client and then do a frag run with it. And then afterwards, I'm just going to talk to you and see what my verdict was about how good it was for mods and the dungeons, and also what the FPS is like. Now, a very important thing that I want to mention is that your FPS greatly depends on what PC you have and what specs you have.
Bruh.
For instance, I always find that my FPS on Feather and Forge is nowhere near than Badlion and Lunar, but that's just my PC. And also, I haven't probably optimized Feather and Forge to the absolute maximum. I'm just going to be testing out what I think about the mods and how convenient they are. Finally, I'm not going to just say objectively that this one is the best client. I'm just going to be seeing what works well and what doesn't, and what the advantages and disadvantages of each client are like, and then seeing what I think of them. So it's really just going to be depending on the needs that you want and what you want your client to do for you. And just before the video starts, I just want to say, if you find my content enjoyable or helpful at all, then just please consider subscribing and liking the video. Also, join my Discord server. We host 10 million giveaways all the time, and if you want a chance to win, link is in the description. And with that, let's get on with the video. So right now, I'm on Badlion, which is the client I actually use, so we're just going to be doing a frag run and just see how we go. So I've just finished the frag run, and I don't feel like I really have to do too much testing anyways, because I know Badlion pretty well. In general, I think Badlion's just like your average run-of-the-mill client. The FPS boost is nice, but again, it's not as much as maybe some of the other clients. The mods are also okay, but they're not as good as Forge, but they're better than like other clients, which are really just designed for PvP only. Like, they still have all solvers, you basically have Skyblock add-ons as well, and then you also have dungeon secrets, which is a nice addition. In general, Badlion's alright, it's just average in all areas. So, as you can see, I'm now on Lunar. I've more or less configured all the settings that I want, and now let's go jump into the run. So right now, my first impressions of Lunar is that aesthetically, it looks really good, much better than Badlion. For me at least, this is quite important because I actually want to be using a client that actually looks really nice. And as you can see from the top right, my FPS is also pretty solid as well, so I'm happy with that. Alright, so I've just finished my frag run using Lunar client, and here's what I'm going to think of it. Alright, so Lunar, the FPS, this is a big win in my book. It gave a little bit more than Badlion, but it wasn't a whole bigger increase, it was like a 5-10% difference. But if you're on a low end PC, then that 5-10% can make all the difference. However, my big complaint, as you're probably expecting, comes with the mod selection. Lunar isn't a Skyblock client, it's a PvP client, so it's pretty understandable why they don't have great mods for Skyblock. They probably put Skyblock mods just there because they know how many people play Skyblock, and they thought it might be just a good thing having just some Skyblock mods as well. It's basically just Skyblock add-ons, but then worse. Like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I literally couldn't find dungeon solvers on there. And no dungeon solvers? That's a bit yikes. The dungeon secrets waypoint is a nice thing to have, but ultimately it's not really the end of the world if you don't have it, because you probably should know your secrets anyway. But overall, the mods are really basic. It's just like the kind of bare minimum stuff that you have for Skyblock. They don't really feel like mods, they just feel like you're playing vanilla Minecraft, with a couple of tweaks to make it slightly nicer. So, as you can see guys, I'm now on Feather Client. Now Feather Client is pretty much just a mix between like a regular client with normal mods that is built in, and also Forge, because you can actually install your own mods. First thing I notice is that Feather, just like Lunar, is aesthetically very clean, and I like it just as much as Lunar, and they're both better than Badlion. However, my FPS in the top left is slightly less than Lunar and Badlion, with around 100 to 130 less FPS. Now of course, installing mods is probably going to lower your FPS. However, a lot of people say they get more FPS on Forge than they do on actual other clients. So just test the FPS for yourself and see what you think. So I've just finished my run with Feather Client. Now, as I said before in the intro, my FPS did take a slight hit, although it did look really good as a client. Setting it up and loading it also didn't take very long, and in general it was pretty efficient. And now comes the biggest strength of Feather Client. You can have as many mods as you want, so you can have NEU, SkyTools, SBA, everything, SPE as well, and get the FPS boost that a normal client would give. In terms of the mod selection, of course it's infinite, so no matter what you want, if you want something, there's probably going to be something on the internet which you can get. However, installing your own mods comes at your own risk. Now, getting ratted or downloading a hacked mod is not something that should dissuade you from using something like Forge or Feather Client. The thing is, as long as you're careful and don't download anything that might hack your computer, then realistically you should be fine. The mods I've downloaded are all really mainstream ones, and I always make sure to check what mods I'm downloading before I do it, and to see if they are actually legit. So I'm only going to be downloading the ones like NEU, SBA, and things like SPE, and also another thing to check is the creator of the mod. For instance, if the creator of a mod is a really well-known and respectable mod developer who's connected with the Hypixel, then it's pretty safe to say that you should be okay using it. Aside from getting hacked, there are also mods which are just illegal on the Hypixel network and can actually get you banned. But in general, just always download mods from only trusted devs. Not even your friends, because if a friend sends you a link to a Skyblock mod, there's a fat chance that they may have been hacked and they've just a bot and they've just got a person sending this to all of the people. So in general, having custom mods is one of the strongest points of Feather Client and Forge, but just make sure that you stay safe. So for Forge, unfortunately, my Minecraft launcher was being a bit difficult and not launching it. But I figured Forge is basically the same thing as Feather Client, except maybe a slight FPS downgrade, and besides, I wouldn't really want to be producing content which is the same repeated crap over again. With the FPS, I've tested it on Forge, and in the past, I've definitely got a lower FPS on Forge than I have on Feather, and also definitely a lower amount than on things like Lunar and Badlion. For me personally, if I was going to use Forge, I would just consider using Feather Client, just because it does give a little bit of an FPS boost, and it's also more user friendly and more appealing in terms of visually. Another thing with having to download your own mods is that you also have to update your mods. However, with a client, you have to just update the client as a whole, but that will give you everything, and you don't have to update the mods individually, which is kind of nice. But despite the short section of Forge, let's move on to the conclusion. So, conclusion time. I'm just going to be going through each of the clients again and just saying what each of them is good at and what is not so good at. Firstly, Badlion. As I said before, Badlion is just really just your average run-of-the-mill Minecraft client. It's sort of like the OG client that's been around for ages, and it's got decent FPS, alright mods, although visually, it's not great and still looks a bit clunky. And don't even get me started on the Badlion font. Lunar next, this was in my opinion the worst for me, just because I really just couldn't play Skyblock without having solvers. That for me is a no-go. If there were solvers, then I apologise, because then the information in this video is false, but I couldn't find the solvers on the Lunar page. And although the FPS was good, it didn't compensate for the lack of mods. And next, we have Feather and Forge. I'm just going to lump them together because they were pretty similar. In terms of mod, they're obviously going to be the best because you can just choose whatever mods you want to put inside. But for me, the convenience factor of just having it all in one client, and also because you're just naturally installing custom mods, your FPS is going to slightly decrease. But ultimately, you just have to look what's important for you in the client. Either you're willing to compromise maybe a better look, better mods, although you're willing to sacrifice some FPS, but if you have a low-end PC, then you probably want to be focusing on more FPS based clients, and clients which might not give you the best result in terms of mods. Now, a lot of my long-term viewers of course know that I use Badlion clients, and will I change after this video? Probably not. It's just the convenience factor of having a client outweighs the amount of work I have to do to set up all my mods, and I know it's not a lot of work. Overall, that's just my personal preference. Last thing quickly, I know there was a lot of controversy around Badlion client because of the previous owners and they were doing some pretty disgusting stuff. I know a lot of people choose not to use Badlion for this reason, but for me, those are owners are now gone now, and there's a completely new ownership of Badlion client. The other controversy in terms of clients is around Feather Client. I think Feather Client, I'm not entirely sure on this, but they were caught using developers' mods without actually asking them to. For instance, I think Skier actually shut down access of his client to Feather because they didn't actually ask for permission to use it. Now, I don't know whether this issue has been resolved, but make of it what you want and maybe look into it a bit more. And anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you found it helpful, then please leave a like, and if you're extra cool, then maybe consider subscribing as well, because it would really help on my channel. And with that, good luck on finding the right client for you, and hope you have a good rest of your day.